On May 26, 2025, at precisely 4:42 a.m., the silence of one of Los Angeles' most exclusive neighborhoods was shattered, not by a party, not by paparazzi, but by an FBI raid. Hidden Hills, a gated community famous for its celebrity residents, and tight-lipped security had just become the center of one of the darkest investigations in Hollywood history. The target, a secluded mansion with no address, no listings, and officially, no owner. It wasn't registered under music mogul Sean "Diddy" Combs, not under his companies, not his trusts, not even his foundations. It simply didn't exist until an anonymous source handed over exact coordinates and a chilling message. There are bodies there, and it's worse than you think. For years, rumors about Diddy's secretive lifestyle had whispered through the corridors of the entertainment industry. Murmurs of parties that turned sinister, of people who went missing, of basements no one was allowed to enter. But whispers don't hold up in court. Evidence does. And what law enforcement found behind the iron gates and beneath the concrete floors of that mansion turned a tabloid rumor into a full-blown federal crisis. Abandoned at first glance, but fresh takeout on the table. Cigarettes still burning. Tire tracks not even a day old. This was no haunted house. Inside, surveillance tapes, handwritten confessions, and something far more disturbing, a sealed basement designed for psychological control, and beneath it all, two lifeless bodies. The questions piled up as quickly as the evidence. Who built this place? What really happened behind those locked doors? And as most disturbingly, who knew but chose to stay silent? This is not just a story about Diddy. It's a story about silence, power, and what happens when the two are weaponized behind closed doors. Stay with us as we reveal the shocking evidence, the underground theories, and the voices that were nearly erased. Because once you see what was found inside, you'll never look at fame the same way again. The mansion raid didn't begin with a lawsuit or a warrant. It started with a whisper. In February 2025, backstage at a fashion show in downtown LA, a visibly shaken woman approached a federal agent. She didn't give her name, only a single sentence. "I used to work for Diddy. There's a place, a house. I heard screams, gunshots. After one night, someone didn't come back." The agent was stunned. The woman, later confirmed to be a former assistant to Sean Combs, had spent over 6 years in his inner circle. What she described wasn't just traumatic. It sounded systematic. A pattern. And the address she gave? It led to a private compound tucked into the farthest corner of Hidden Hills. But there was one major problem: that property didn't exist. Not officially. No records, no taxes, no ties to Diddy's companies, trusts, or holdings. Not even a mention in corporate filings. When investigators checked satellite images, the estate appeared active up until mid-2023, and then, as if scripted, it went completely dark. No car movement, no electricity use, camera feeds offline, almost, like someone turned it invisible. Then came the financial trail. Ownership of the estate had been passed through 3 shell companies, all fronted by offshore entities registered in the Cayman Islands. A textbook maneuver for someone trying to disappear from paper and reality. According to Financial Crimes analyst Stephen Miles, when you see a $10 million mansion bouncing through multiple offshore accounts in under 14 months, that's not privacy. That's protection from something. But it wasn't just bank records. The whistleblower also gave agents dated photos. Justin Combs, Diddy's son, at the mansion in 2022. Models, rappers, people partying, laughing, posing in a home that was supposedly abandoned. And behind them, blurred faces, figures that couldn't be identified. People who, to this day, haven't come forward. By early April, the FBI and the Financial Crimes Investigation Bureau quietly launched a covert operation under the codename Project Echo. The goal: track suspicious real estate, follow untraceable crypto transactions, and re-examine sealed litigation tied to Sean Combs. The Cassie lawsuit, filed in 2023, resurfaced with disturbing relevance. One line stood out: "There's a place in Hidden Hills. No one goes there without his permission." By May, that place was under 24/7 surveillance. Drones hovered, night cams rolled, and 3 different unidentified vehicles were recorded, circling the property at 2:17, 3:04, and 4:11 a.m., all within a 5-day span. The mansion had no lights, no cameras, no guards. But something, or someone, was still going in and out. That's when the federal team made their move. A court-approved search warrant was filed on May 17th. The operation was green-lit, and 9 days later, the raid began. But no one, not even seasoned agents, was prepared for what they'd find behind the walls of a house no one was supposed to know existed. Behind the scenes, a plan was unfolding. By April 2025, Federal T. Agencies had moved beyond rumor. They had verified property connections, identified circumstantial witnesses, and were gathering real-time intel under a top-secret multi-agency task force called Project Echo. It was led jointly by the FBI, the Financial Crimes Investigation Bureau, and 2 embedded digital forensics teams. The mission: expose financial crimes, trace hidden real estate, and verify long-standing abuse allegations tied to Sean "Diddy" Combs. Each agent had a different focus: cryptocurrency routing, surveillance intercepts, behavioral profiling. But all signs pointed to one chilling conclusion: the Hidden Hills mansion wasn't abandoned. It was operational and potentially lethal. The Cassie lawsuit became a cornerstone. A leaked passage read, "There's a house no one talks about, no staff allowed, only him and whoever he tests. We were told if you go in, you don't come out the same." For the first time, an official legal document had alluded to the mansion's purpose, not as a home, but as a facility. By May, surveillance had increased. Using drones and thermal imaging, federal teams monitored heat signatures, aerial movement, and unusual night activity. Despite no electricity reported on municipal records, the house emitted regular pulses of infrared energy, consistent with backup generators or concealed systems. Over a 2-week span, motion detectors logged repeated foot traffic between 2 and 5 a.m. More disturbing, sensors picked up sudden heat spikes beneath the home's eastern wing, as if something was being powered or moved below ground. And then came the last straw. 3 separate black SUVs appearing between May 10th and May 15th were captured idling for hours within 500 meters of the property. All had obscured plates. None matched local resident logs. One even exited the area using a service road previously reported as closed. This was no longer surveillance. It was escalation. On May 17th, agents secured a federal search warrant from the U.S. District Court in Los Angeles. The affidavit cited probable cause of unlawful confinement, evidence of human remains, property used for financial laundering and behavioral, coercion. The judge signed without hesitation. Operation Echo went from investigation to action. The raid was scheduled for May 26th at 4:42 a.m. The quietest moment in Hidden Hills based on activity logs and neighborhood data. Agents aimed to preserve evidence, avoid detection, and above all, protect any potential captives. The task force was divided into 4 units. 1. Breach and entry. 11 federal agents trained in electromagnetic lockbreaking. 2. Digital recovery. Team. 1 mobile unit equipped to access non-networked devices. 3. LAPD support. 6 local officers for parametric security. 4. Forensics advanced recon. 2 specialists for DNA, bodily fluids, and trauma mapping. The mansion sat near the end of a tree-lined cul-de-sac. isolated, shielded by thick hedges and 4-meter-high foliage. The gates were rusted shut, chains bolted from inside, but they didn't break them down. Instead, agents used soundless electromagnetic, jammers, and custom tools to disable the locking mechanisms without triggering alarms, preserving the site in its rawest state. The first step inside was silence. Lead Agent Henry Lell described the air as thick, still, waiting. Everything looked untouched, but the signs told a different story. A half-finished container of Chinese takeout, a cigarette still, burning in an ashtray. A glass of water, condensation fresh, sitting on the windowsill. And the driveway? Damp tire imprints, as if a vehicle had just pulled away. This was no ghost house. It was lived in, recently, quietly, secretly. Inside, agents found scattered technology. A dead phone with no battery, a tablet wiped clean but warm to the touch. The living room was meticulously tidy, yet dust-free, as if cleaned in a rush. Upstairs, crushed linens on a king-sized bed. A broken latch on a closet door. On the wall above the fireplace, a photo frame with the glass shattered and the image slashed across Diddy's face. But it was the basement that changed everything. Behind a decorative wooden panel on the first floor, agents uncovered a hidden wall. Behind that, a 90-kilogram steel door locked by an electronic keypad. It took 45 minutes and 3 specialists to bypass the encryption without damaging the hinges. When it opened, what they saw wasn't a wine cellar or a panic room. It was a soundproof chamber, concrete walls, fluorescent lights, a bolted-down metal chair, bloodstains. On the wall, cameras, analog, wired to a VHS system buried inside. The wall. A criminal psychologist on scene said only one word: control. What had started as whispers of a private mansion now revealed something much darker. A fully engineered space designed for observation, restriction, and psychological domination. And this was just the beginning. The deeper agents moved through. The house, the clearer it became. This mansion wasn't abandoned. It was staged. The front rooms looked ordinary. Leather couches, wall-mounted artwork, scattered wine glasses. But something was off. The details didn't line up. The couch cushions were torn in strange patterns, not aged, but violently ripped. Paintings had been removed from their frames, leaving faint outlines on the wall. A photo of Diddy, once displayed prominently, was slashed across the face. In the kitchen, one plate sat in the sink with a fork still resting on it, as if someone had left in the middle of a meal. The air was heavy with the scent of mildew and cleaning chemicals. An odd, conflicting combination. A sign, perhaps, that someone tried to wipe something away. Then came the second floor. One bedroom had its sheets in disarray, with visible drag marks on the floor leading from the bed to the door. A closet door was broken from the inside. And on the balcony railing, a small pink hair tie clung to a nail partially unraveled. In the bathroom, the mirror was shattered. Below it, empty bottles of prescription sedatives scattered across the sink. One had a torn label, J. Combs. The dosage was unusually high, the kind only authorized for severe psychiatric patients. In the hallway, red marker stains smeared across the wall. Most had been scrubbed clean, but 3 words remained. Shut up, loyalty, no witness. But the real horror, the true purpose of this mansion, was hidden underground. Agents returned to the concealed door in the basement wall. They had opened it. But now, they were stepping inside. What they found was not a room. It was a facility. Industrial-grade fluorescent lights flickered overhead. Walls were lined with soundproof acoustic foam, not the kind used in recording studios, but the kind used in high-security psychiatric chambers. The floor was rubber-coated concrete, stained with brownish-red splotches. Blood, confirmed later by forensics. In the center of the room, a heavy metal chair bolted to the ground, equipped with leather wrist restraints. On a tray beside it, surgical gloves, zip ties, and what appeared to be a used gauze pad. Mounted to the walls were two analog surveillance cameras wired into a hidden power system buried behind a sliding steel panel. The VHS recorder, still functioning, had several tapes labeled with dates and cryptic titles. Obedience Trial 1, Flex 3, Breakdown. But the most chilling details were small. On one wall, someone had scratched into the foam. "Somebody help me." Faint, barely legible, almost erased. Nearby, a rusted bed frame, foldable. Beneath it, agents found a cooler filled with dry ice. Inside, partially preserved human remains, a forearm, a jawbone, teeth. Forensics would later confirm 2 bodies, 1 male, 1 female. This room had not been used for living. It had been used for breaking people down. Dr. Brian Mercer, a criminal psychologist on site, said, "This isn't punishment, this is programming. Cold War governments used rooms like this, sensory isolation, language stripping. It's not just torture, it's transformation." Whoever left this behind didn't just want silence, they wanted obedience. The rest of the basement revealed even more layers. Behind a false wall in the adjacent storage space, agents found blindfolds and leather restraints, duct tape, torn and stained, workout equipment modified with heavy locking clamps, a journal, its pages filled with diagrams and behavioral instructions. Test threshold. Push with sound, break with silence. On the final page, a crude drawing of the mansion, and a word at the bottom, ascend. Each detail painted a picture more horrifying than the last. This mansion wasn't a hideaway, it was a training ground, or worse, a laboratory. Outside, near a tool shed, agents discovered another locked door, leading to a second chamber, smaller but similar. Dark, wired, stained. One wall bore 5 tally marks etched into concrete. Someone had been counting. How many others had walked? These halls, how many never walked out? And still, no formal records, no ownership, no fingerprints matching any known person in the national database. Whoever had used this space had done so without leaving a trace. Until now. What the FBI had stumbled onto wasn't just physical evidence. It was the unraveling of a system that might have run for years, out of sight, protected by money, fear, and power. The mansion's silence was shattered, but what echoed in its walls told a story no one was ready to hear. As the sun rose over hidden hills, the mansion was sealed off and transformed into an active crime scene. Forensic teams moved in, working in rotating shifts for the next 72 hours. What they uncovered during those first 3 days didn't just confirm suspicions, it detonated them. The first discovery: 2 human bodies. The first was male, found inside a dry, ice-filled cooler beneath the basement bed. Forensics identified a tattoo on the upper back, a small phoenix. It matched missing persons reports for Stephen Flex. Parker, a freelance dancer who had worked with Diddy between 2018 and 2021. He had vanished in 2022, with the case dismissed due to lack of leads. The second body was female, discovered stuffed into a black contractor bag, bound with multiple layers of plastic wrap and electrical wire. Her wrists and neck showed ligature marks. Her fingernails were broken. Part of her hair was missing, and her mouth had been gagged with cloth reinforced by duct tape. Preliminary findings suggested she died from either prolonged trauma or asphyxiation. Neither victim carried ID. Both had been decomposing for months, possibly longer. The second discovery, a notebook, leather-bound, filled with dense handwriting. The entries described something called resilience training. One passage read, "Don't let them believe they have rights. Break the pride first, then reshape what's left." Another entry: if resistance persists, send them downstairs. Within 48 hours, they'll comply. Handwriting analysts later revealed a high probability match with Sean Combs. Though inconclusive without further verification, the style and phrasing were eerily consistent with other documents attributed to him. The third discovery: partially burned medical documents. Recovered in a second-floor drawer were shredded pages that referenced Justin Combs, Diddy's son. One document described signs of a severe personality disorder, a lack of empathy, and an emerging interest in social behavioral control under stress. The issuing institution wasn't listed, no official letterhead, but its implications were chilling. The fourth discovery: financial records. In the storage room safe, agents uncovered envelopes stamped with the initials FT. Inside, bank statements showing large recurring withdrawals from accounts connected to a charitable foundation once led by Diddy. Each withdrawal matched the reported disappearance date of a public figure, including 2 up-and-coming rappers, who had signed short-term deals with his label only to vanish months later. One folded contract bore Diddy's signature and an unidentified second name. The language was stark. All activities within this facility are strictly confidential. Any breach will be dealt with accordingly. The signer agrees to submit to all loyalty protocols beginning July 3, 2023. The final page had only 4 words: failure results in reassignment. And the fifth discovery: DNA, hair strands, blood samples, skin cells. Dozens of unique DNA profiles were found, but 5 didn't match anyone in national databases. No IDs, no background, no family contact. As one agent said off the record, these people don't officially exist, and that's what scares us most. In addition to DNA, agents also collected VHS tapes, hard drives, and optical discs. One tape, labeled Obedience Test, contained a disturbing scene. A person, face not visible, is restrained in the metal chair, subjected to alternating high-pitched frequencies and verbal commands. A male voice off-camera shouts, "Don't. Look away. Look into the light. Say who owns you." The tape ends abruptly. Experts later confirmed that the room in the footage was the same basement chamber. Every piece of evidence, the bodies, the documents, the voices, the scars, pointed to a coordinated system, not just abuse, but methodology, repetition, intention. One folder titled Stability Cycles included charts of behavior over time, how long individuals lasted under sensory deprivation, which commands broke them faster, and what corrections proved most effective. A sketch within the folder mapped out multiple rooms in the house, with labels like prep, break, condition, reinforce. A psychologist reviewing the file remarked, "This is not a one-time event. This is a process, a psychological engine, and someone was fine-tuning it." With no suspects in custody and the mansion now a locked federal facility, investigators had only one mission left: connect this evidence to the people behind it. But every answer so far only spawned darker questions. How long had this gone on? Who were the unidentified victims? And most disturbingly, who knew and said nothing? With bodies discovered, tapes analyzed, and documents secured, the FBI moved into its most critical phase: interpretation. Why was this mansion built? What was its true purpose? Who orchestrated what now appeared to be a methodical system of control, and why? The evidence was overwhelming, but investigators still needed to piece it into a narrative. What emerged were not wild speculations, but 4 distinct and plausible criminal theories, each rooted in the evidence, and each more disturbing than the last. Theory 1: a psychological control operation, disguised as self-development. The first and most supported theory is that the mansion functioned as the hub of a cult-like behavioral control program. But unlike traditional cults, this one didn't preach religion. It promised power, access, rebirth. The term resilience training, found throughout notebooks and taped interviews, suggested a controlled system of breaking individuals down mentally, then rebuilding their loyalty from the ground up. Many details paralleled tactics used by known psychological conditioning programs: prolonged isolation, timed punishment, praise withdrawal, and cognitive reshaping. A soundproof chamber, a restrained chair, and white noise audio loops weren't just random, they were tools. Dr. Eleanor Vance, a cult psychology expert, reviewed the footage and stated, "This is eerily similar to mind control environments I've studied. The chair, the lighting, the phrasing, it mimics Cold War-era psychological warfare. This isn't therapy, it's reprogramming. The presumed targets, assistants, junior artists, and those in Diddy's inner circle, especially those financially or emotionally dependent on him." Theory 2, an internal detention site for disloyal associates. The second theory is even darker. According to multiple witness statements and leaked excerpts from the Cassie lawsuit, individuals who broke confidentiality, threatened to leave, or questioned the system were allegedly detained, not fired. This mansion wasn't just a psychological facility. It may have been a holding site, a place where dissenters were restrained until they were corrected, silenced, or disappeared. One passage from the handwritten notebook stated, "They'll fight at first, but if you take their voice away, the mind follows." This theory gained traction after the two bodies were identified as former collaborators, individuals who reportedly had tense fallouts before vanishing. Combined with financial logs showing severance withdrawals on the days they disappeared, the pattern became impossible to ignore. A federal agent involved in the case shared anonymously, "If this theory is right, then we're not just dealing with abuse. We're dealing with a shadow justice system. Private punishments for internal betrayal." Theory 3, a laundering and extortion nexus. The third theory centers around money. The Hidden Hills mansion, according to land registry data, passed through 3 shell companies and offshore entities. These aren't uncommon in celebrity real estate, but paired with charity-linked withdrawals and mystery consulting fees, they raised red flags. Investigators suspect the estate may have functioned as part of a money laundering network, allowing illicit funds to be cycled through resilience services or artist development invoices. More chilling, some analysts believe blackmail may have been part of the operation. Several tapes were labeled with non-descriptive terms like Crown 2 and Ascend 5, leading experts to theorize that high-profile individuals may have been filmed during compromising activities. A senior forensic accountant said, "You don't hide money unless it's dirty, and you don't film people unless you plan to use it." If true, the mansion may have generated leverage, not just loyalty. Theory 4, a ritualized loyalty. Trial that turned deadly. The final theory is the most speculative and the most terrifying. Some evidence, including the obedience tapes, repeated use of the word trial, and crude symbols found carved into furniture and documents, points to a possible ritualized initiation process, one that tested obedience through pain, silence, and fear. These trials may have been positioned as rites of passage, with those who passed ascending in status and those who failed removed. An audio clip recovered from one VHS tape included the line, "Make it understand. Without me, it is nothing. If it still has thoughts, erase them." Whether metaphor or mission statement, the implication is disturbing. Dr. Vance concluded, "If this was a loyalty cult disguised as a career incubator, we could be looking at one of the most insidious systems in entertainment history." Each theory stands alone, but perhaps more unsettling is this: they don't contradict each other. In fact, they fit together, like pieces of the same nightmare puzzle. Psychological control, enforced loyalty, financial manipulation, and when needed, erasure. As one high-ranking FBI official put it, "We're not investigating a man. We're unsealing a machine, built to dominate, protect, and destroy." The deeper the agents go, the more undeniable it becomes. This wasn't the work of one disturbed individual. This was a system, and that system may be bigger than any of us imagined. When the story broke, the world didn't believe it at first. Headlines flooded social media. Diddy's Hidden Hills mansion raided by FBI. Human remains found. Surveillance tapes surface. But it was the footage, grainy, horrifying, unmistakable, that shifted public opinion from skepticism to fear. Suddenly, this wasn't just another celebrity scandal. It was a window into something deeper, darker. And the reactions? They came fast and loud. At the center was Justin Combs, Diddy's eldest son. Seen in leaked photos at the mansion and referenced in both medical and financial documents, he was quickly summoned for federal questioning. His response? Silence. Through his attorney, Justin invoked his Fifth Amendment right and declined to answer all questions related to the mansion, the tapes, and the allegations. His legal team issued only one public statement. "Our client has no comment at this time." That silence echoed louder than words. Meanwhile, sources close to the Combs family confirmed that the FBI was reviewing an old college application Justin submitted in 2020, where he listed human behavior under constraint as a personal interest, a fact that, in isolation, meant nothing, but in this context, felt chilling. Then came Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former girlfriend and the plaintiff in a major 2023 lawsuit. She re-entered the spotlight when the FBI revisited her case. In a saved message from 2021, Diddy allegedly wrote, "You think you know me, but you've never been downstairs." At the time, it seemed cryptic. Now it sounded like a confession. Cassie, through her attorney, submitted further evidence, including photographs of bruises, therapy records, and one voice memo in which a male voice says, "If she talks, we're all going down." That voice is currently under forensic analysis. Other celebrities began distancing themselves, fast. Usher, once close to Diddy, deleted over 40 posts from Instagram, scrubbing all traces of collaboration. His reps declined to comment. Mary J. Blige pulled out of a scheduled joint. Appearance. French Montana canceled a tour stop citing unforeseen legal considerations. But it wasn't just former collaborators. Major brands that once aligned with Diddy's business ventures, including Ciroc Vodka, Revolt TV, and his fashion line Sean John, quietly suspended endorsements and licensing agreements pending further investigation. And the public? Split in two. One side believes Diddy is being framed, the victim of a political takedown or revenge-driven allegations. The other sees a calculated predator who operated under the veil of influence for years. But as more details leaked, the defenders grew silent, especially when short clips from the tapes began appearing online. Shadowy figures restrained, an audio loop repeating the words, "You belong to the system." No official charges had been filed, yet. But the fallout had already begun. Diddy's empire was cracking, not because of a single accusation, but because the illusion of control had shattered. And for those who once called him mentor, friend, or partner, only one question remains. What did they know? And how long did they look away? The mansion in Hidden Hills is now empty. The rusted gates are sealed. The surveillance drones are gone. But the echo of what was discovered there still reverberates, in courtrooms, in news cycles, and in the minds of a public struggling to reconcile image with reality. This wasn't just a house. It was a machine built possibly to control, to punish, to reshape. The tapes, the bodies, the notes, the symbols, they don't belong in the world of music videos and fashion lines. They belong in case files, classified reports, horror stories, and yet they were found behind the door of a pop culture icon. the investigation continues. The FBI has now expanded its probe to include 3 more Diddy-connected properties: a penthouse in Manhattan, a recording studio in Atlanta, and a secluded ranch in Miami. Search warrants are pending. Digital teams are preparing. Behind the scenes, they're piecing together a broader map of transactions, disappearances, and silence. Too many coincidences, too many NDAs, too many people who remember things but won't say them. So what happens next? If the voices in those tapes are confirmed, if more victims come forward, if the evidence leads to others in power, we may be looking at the beginning of a reckoning, not just for one man, but for an entire system. A system where power shields the predator, where wealth buys silence, and where celebrity turns monsters into mentors. But justice has a sound, and it's getting louder. So now, it's your turn. Do you believe Diddy orchestrated this hidden empire? Or is he just a pawn in a game bigger than any of us understand? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because in the next part, we'll go deeper into the network surrounding this mansion, the players behind the scenes, the institutions that stayed quiet, and the question that still haunts this case: how many others were never found? If you want the truth, the real truth, subscribe now and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what comes next.